Good evening, everybody. I'm assuming we're going to just go from here, seeing as it is 8:01 p.m. and we do these from 8 o'clock. So my name is Zeeher from Melbourne. I'm here to share a breakthrough that can change your life. ASEA products have impacted my life in a number of small ways, such as no longer having seasonal discomfort in my fingers once the weather gets cold. However, tonight we have a special guest who has had a really significant result, thanks to including redox supplementation in his life. Now, Chuck, I'm going to try the surname, Grilava, I think it is, was interviewed by Kay Cremond, having met him at our global convention in Dallas recently. And I'm going to share the video of his redox experiences because unfortunately Kay can't be with us tonight. But before we get started, I invite you to think about a few questions to get in touch with what you're looking for in your life. So do you have a health challenge, or do you know of someone with a health challenge that needs help? Would you like to reduce the visible signs of aging? Who doesn't want that? Would you need more energy to do what you love? Maybe you're an athlete who's looking for improved performance, or you might be just looking for more time and more money, freedom, and a better lifestyle. So to really live well, we need two basic things: a body that can do whatever you ask it to do, and enough money to ask it to do some great things. To have that body, you might be exercising, you might be watching your diet, or taking nutritional supplements. You might be doing everything you can think of, or you might not be doing anything at all. However, frustratingly, no matter what you do, as you age, your cells respond less effectively to all of these strategies. Your cells naturally begin to break down, producing energy less efficiently and repairing themselves more slowly. So if your cells could be just a little more efficient, your exercise, nutrition, supplementation, and everything else you do could be more effective. You could be healthier, longer, with less effort. Several years ago, scientists made a groundbreaking discovery. They identified molecules natively produced inside the body that help your cells repair and regenerate. And once discovered, years of research and development went into figuring out how to produce these molecules outside of the body so that they could be used as a nutritional supplement. The result is a molecular technology that helps your cells work better. And when your cells work better, everything works better. Your diet and exercise efforts become more productive. Nutritional supplementation works better. You feel better, you look better, you sleep better, and you have more energy. So what I'm going to do now is play the video from our special guest with their redox experience. So to do that, I need to share my screen. Bear with me all. Okay. Hoping this is going to work.
Good evening, everybody. I'd just like to...
can somebody give me a thumbs up if they can hear this?
Special guest for tonight. I'm actually
Jane, I think you got to start it again, because when you share it, there's a special button you push. So
yes, the video part. Sorry, Janine, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, down here to share. Where are you?
There'll be three coloured buttons, and I know you push one of them.
Yeah, I know the button you mean, but I just can't get the share back on my screen part.
So maybe
all right, I'll unshare, stop my share.
Then start it again.
Oh dear, the joys of technology. So share computer sound. Okay. Let's go back to the beginning with this one. Sorry, here's Kay.
Good evening, everybody. I'd just like to say a warm welcome and special guests for tonight. I'm actually recording this a couple of days prior to our meeting because Chuck lives in the United States and we're, of course, are in Melbourne. So welcome, Chuck Grilava. And I would like to just ask you a few questions as we've just, previously just discussed. So what was like before you actually started ASEA, before you were introduced to ASEA?
When I was first introduced to ASEA, I had several underlying conditions. One of them was autoimmune disorder, which caused some lung problems, and that's why the nurse I was working with introduced me to ASEA. I was still working full time, but I just didn't have the energy to really do it much longer. I was there shortly thereafter that I actually had to retire on disability.
Okay. So were you introduced to ASEA after you retired? How did it come into your life? Was it because of you'd had a stroke? Is that correct?
I had had a stroke, and that was causing when you have a stroke, it causes your body to actually have to work harder to do things. Mm-hmm. And because of my underlying lung condition, I wasn't able to actually efficiently oxygenate my body. And so that was why the nurse that introduced me to ASEA said, we ought to give this a shot. And it was shortly thereafter I had to retire on a medical disability because I just wasn't able to perform my duties as a respiratory therapist any longer.
Okay. So what were you actually starting on? What was your dosage that this particular nurse started you on? And was that to address the stroke and the autoimmune at that stage?
Correct. It was to diagnose. It was to treat everything. But you have to keep in mind, this was 5 years ago when we didn't necessarily know everything we know today. We thought 4 ounces was the gold standard, rubber stamp, fix everybody. And we've since learned that is not the case. Everybody over 50, we recommend, at least I do, 8 ounces, and then those with severe problems, maybe 12 to 16 ounces. Mm-hmm. My sweet spot was 12 ounces, and we'll get into that here in just a little bit.
So you're still taking the 12 ounces a day?
That is correct, yes.
Yeah, okay. So what benefits did you feel, and how long did that take for it to kick in?
It was probably, I think, if I look back in hindsight, it was probably within a week or so I was noticing maybe a little bit more energy and less joint pain and fatigue. But when we first started ASEA, I actually started juicing as well. And so I wasn't 100% sure, was it the juicing or was it the ASEA that actually gave me the result? And so we spent the next 2 years kind of off and on ASEA, playing with it. Is it really worth the expense? Is it not? Am I really getting anything out of this? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what we spent 2 years off and on, kind of figuring out what it is we were going to do. So
what was it that you were actually experiencing that you were thinking that it was getting better? Was it more the stroke side of it, or did you have slurring or anything like that associated with the stroke?
So I was fortunate not to have much slurring, at least in my mind. I speak perfectly clear. But it was more joint pain from the autoimmune disorder and actually energy that I was feeling, maybe some mental clarity. I was able to remember things, which having had the stroke, there was some things like drug names I couldn't remember, where before I could rattle off drug name and dosages, no problem. Mm-hmm. I was having a little bit of difficulty remembering some of that, and that has come back a little bit. It's not back to where it was pre-stroke, but it has come back some.
So that was 2 years ago. You were using the 12 ounces, and then you had a regression. What else actually happened about 2 years after you had started and stopped with the ASEA?
Well, two years after that, I was diagnosed with a rogue cell tumor in my tongue, and it was something that needed to get surgically removed, or it was such an aggressive mass that my life was threatened. Basically, is what it amounts to. Mm-hmm. And so at that particular time, I said, this ASEA is not working because I've got this thing going on. So I immediately stopped. And it was about 2 months before I could get into the University of Washington Medical Center here in Seattle to actually have that removed. And so in the meantime, I was just suffering through the pain and doing what Western medicine recommended me to do. And my health just spiraled out of control. And long story short, when they went in to do the 12-hour surgery, I wasn't actually expected to get off the table. We were expecting, with my lungs being the way they were, I had maybe a 50-50 chance. But I had ended up with a hole from the bottom of my mouth out my neck, and it would leak, so you could actually drink water and leak out your neck. So I was there for 64 days while they were trying to get that to heal. And 3 or 4 major surgeries. My gallbladder went bad. I was a terrible patient. Everything they did to me went wrong. And fortunately, after 64 days, they finally let me go home. I was to a point where I was not sick enough to be in the hospital, but I was still too sick to do anything. Walking from my bedroom to the couch was exhausting, and that was pretty much all I could do. I basically was kind of losing my will to live. And so I was home by myself. My wife works as full-time as a nurse, and the girls we have 2 that are 10 and 13. They were at school. I had walked into the bathroom, and I had noticed that I had forgotten to turn my auto ship off of ASEA. And I had several cases there because I was in the hospital for 3 months. So I thought, you know what? I know this stuff. Jerry White tells us all the time. It's not going to hurt you. It's perfectly safe. And you know what? It might actually help. So I thought, I've been doing this for 3 months. Nothing's worked. What the heck? I'm going to start pushing it up my feeding tube, and we'll see what happens. And so I started doing 4 ounces 3 times a day. And that's when, within 30 days, I had a wound pump that was on my gallbladder that had gotten infected when they took my gallbladder out. That was gone because the wound had healed up enough we didn't need that. And within 2 months, I was able to eat and drink enough food by mouth because the wound in my neck had healed up, that I was able to have my food tube removed. And within 90 days, I actually had enough energy to take my girls fishing.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's just absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. I mean, in 3 months, and here you are, a couple of months in hospital, and they couldn't do anything. And after 3 months, you were putting that directly into your peg. Is that correct?
That is correct. I was doing 4 ounces 3 times a day. I had a special syringe that I didn't put any of the medicine or feeding drink. I guess I can't remember the name of it. The milkshake that my girls used to make, and so it was
yeah.
It was just for ASEA, so it was clean.
Yeah.
I'd flush it with water. I'd squirt my ASEA up, and away we went. And it was probably about 6 months after that my wife, being a nurse, she was pretty much anti-ASEA. She's like, you know what, I'll humor the old man, and I'll let him do what he's going to do, but I'm not buying into this stuff.
Even after you'd had that result?
Well, even after I had that result. But it was about 6 months later that I actually had more energy than she did. And I'm getting up at 5:30, making breakfast for the girls, making lunch, sending them off to school, and have a bounce in my step. And she's kind of dragging because she's got some autoimmune disorder herself, where she's got fatigue and joint pain, muscle soreness. And she's like, you know what, if you've got this much energy after all you've been through, I think I need to try some of your secret sauce. And so we put her on it for a while, and she did get some good results. But it was to a point where it's like, with me being on disability and her being the only one working, it was just a little bit too expensive for us. And so that's when we kind of decided to start sharing ASEA to help us with the fact that we could be able to have both of us on it. And right now, I'm doing 3 cases a month. She's doing 2, and the girls are even on it, and they're doing a case. Wow. So we've got the whole family on it, and I honestly think that they couldn't kill me at the hospital. I'm here for a reason, and that's to improve people's quality of life, whether that's through their wealth or through their health. And I think that's my mission in life, is to do that.
Oh, that is just absolutely awesome. Actually, tell me, by the way, did you catch some fish when you took them fishing? Got to ask that question. I hope you did.
Well, we catch fish more times than not, but
okay.
They're actually getting big enough now where I get to fish too, and I'm not spending all my time untangling their line. So It'll be a whole lot more fun now that they're older.
Oh, cool. So obviously it's made a very big difference in your life and your families, which is absolutely awesome. And I love the fact that you now have had a solution to actually get the rest of the family on by sharing it. And it's given you the energy to actually be able to go out there and share, which is just awesome. You have got an incredible story, and people, to sit up and actually listen to you. You're a guest speaker wherever you go now, I'm sure. So how many people has anybody that you've actually helped with either a stroke, rogue cells, your lung, autoimmune, that that you've actually helped or had some sort of contribute to their health because of your story?
I know that I've signed up a tremendous amount of people because of my story.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't necessarily signed up anybody with the rogue cell condition yet. I take that back. I've got one I just signed up, but she's only been on the product for a couple of weeks, and so it's been a little bit early to tell whether that's helping her condition. I have had a tremendous amount of success with depression, believe it or not. I've got probably 6 ladies in my Oregon branch that I had signed this one. We were on the site on Facebook, and she was talking about her husband having to go on gabapentin. And I messaged her, it's like, well, that's a really, really nasty drug. I may have something that can help you that's more natural. Well, long story short, unbeknownst to me, she was suffering from a depression and was almost suicidal. And within like 5 or 6 days, I get a phone call from her, and I'm pushing my buggy through one of the grocery stores, and she tells me this, that she was just days away from committing suicide.
Wow. See, you don't know who you're going to touch, do you? That's just, yeah.
I mean, I was talking to her about her husband. I mean, yeah. And that's what that one hit. Then I have another lady over in Wisconsin whose brother had a stroke and was on a feeding tube and a ventilator, and with my back, used to work with her at one of the hospitals here. And with my background as a respiratory therapist and having a stroke and having a feeding tube, I was reaching out to her to say, this may help him. It's soon enough we may be able to recover some brain cells. I don't know, but it's not going to hurt. And she started giving it to him, but then she started doing research. And she's like, I have a bad back. I have sore joints. And I get a phone call from her. It's like, my brother's doing fantastic, but I'm even doing better. And I'm like, wow, I didn't realize we were going to set you up. So,
cheap for the price of one.
Exactly. So it's those kinds of stories that really make you get up and it's like, oh gosh, I'm too tired to do this meeting. I'm too tired to make this phone call. And you think back and you listen to those stories, and it's like, I'm making a difference.
You certainly are. You certainly are. So the other question I just wanted to ask is how's your blood work now? And it was 2 years since when you started with your Zeeher. So between then and now, how long has that journey been?
Well, actually, I'll back up this even a little bit further. When I was, after I did the experiment with 16 ounces on my peg tube, I dropped back to 8 ounces because, again, this is still new. We didn't necessarily have the information that we have now. And what I was experiencing was one of the autoimmune disorders is fairly severe joint pain. And there is a blood test you can do. It's called the SED rate, SED. The normal range is from 0 to 14, I believe it is. And mine's been running about 45 to 50 for the last 20 years. When Shayla and I went to the national or the global convention in Salt Lake last year, they came out with that genetic study, and it showed where it works on your inflammatory cascade. Well, her and I were driving back saying, well, I think we need to bump this to 12 ounces and see what happens. Well, within 6 weeks, I was off 6 different medications, and 3 of those were related to pain. I just went in here, I think it was 3 or 4 months ago, had my blood drawn again, and my SED rate was down to 22.
Wow.
and that's the inflammatory marker. And the rheumatologist said that's textbook perfect for somebody with your autoimmune disorder. And I was like, well, I think that's good. Just wait till next year when it's down even lower. And and I fully expect it to be that way. I mean, I'm off all those pain medicines. Actually, the pulmonologist took me off of 3 more medications, so it's a total of 9 now that I'm off since I upped my dose.
Wow.
And so I am a stickler when you're signing somebody up. Have them buy in multiple cases so you can adjust their dose to find their sweet spot, because everybody's different. It takes me 12 ounces. It takes my wife 8 ounces. My mom and my aunt both are on 6, and my aunt's 82.
Yeah.
So I was wanting her to be on 8, but 6 is what does it. So there's no sense in her taking the other 2 unless she's getting a cold or just doesn't feel good. Then we have her take a little bit extra.
Right.
So if you can, you're going to save them money in the long run if you can get them a little bit extra now, so you can titrate their dose up to find a sweet spot. When they start getting a reaction, then we know that that's what it takes.
Yeah, and then because they do get a reaction or they get a result quicker,
Right.
The retention rate would be higher too, because they actually can see that it's working. It's not,
Absolutely.
not this snake oil that you were talking about. No longer that, is it?
No, it's a wonderful elixir now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey. I mean, I'm sure we could, have a lot longer talk, but we've only got a limited time with our weekly Zoom. But thank you so much from the bottom of our heart. We actually really do appreciate it, and I look forward to having you down under soon.
Can't wait. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Have a good night.
I'm just going to stop the share. Okay, so there is another video that Kay went on to talk to Chuck about the quantities that he was dosing up at, and he sort of mentioned that in there. So he was talking about stepping people up through the dosing to minimise the risk of significant symptoms of detoxification. He's found that starting people on 2 ounces or 60 mils twice a day for 3 to 4 days, and then if there are no significant detoxes, signs or resolutions of the symptoms, then he ups them again. So he found then they double it to 4 ounces or 120 mils twice a day. And again, if no resolution of symptoms, no major detox, he adds in a 3rd dose and then a 4th dose. And he rarely finds he has to go beyond that half a bottle a day dose. He usually keeps them at that rate for about a month and then titrates them back until they start experiencing symptoms again, and that seems to be that point which he calls the sweet spot. So you can actually then keep them around there, just up or down a bit. And he found that going slowly minimises any challenging detoxes, which can, if very rarely, he's only had one, put some people off. Now I do have one more short video. I'm just going to try and find that, because at the moment I'm looking at lovely Janine's face. Here it is. And I just did want to say also that he talked about the SED rate. That's something that we know more commonly as an ESR rate, an ESR test. So that's the thing. All right, let me just do another quick share if I can. Oops, hang on a minute. Sorry, I'm just going to find my share screen. Share my main screen. Share computer sound share. Here we go. One more time with, where did it go? Here it is. So this is just a little bit more.
I'm talking to Chuck a little bit further. This is like, wait, you'll get steak knives. You actually get more from Chuck because we were talking about the Renew 28, and he was just mentioning what result he was having with the result with his arm not working very well because of the stroke. So over to you.
Okay. So what we were doing was, my hand on my right side doesn't open up very, very well. And so I was rubbing Renew on my forearm, and I would get a little bit of relief, and it would open up a little bit. But the occupational therapist decided she would use that as her gel, and she actually ultrasounded the Renew 28 in, and my numbers just basically doubled. And so I was able to fully open my hand with one treatment. I did lose it after a while, so repetitive treatments are going to be required until I get sufficient healing. But the one that really got her eyes open was when I could only lift my arm up this far. She ultrasounded my shoulder, and 5 minutes later, it was clear up to here. And that was one that was absolutely amazing. Talking to Jerry White, who is I think, is he up your upline ambassador diamond as well? He is a physical therapist by trade, and what he was telling us is his hypothesis is the ultrasound carried the Renew 28 in a little bit deeper and a little bit quicker, and so we were getting the response from that, and that's basically what it was. And it was sufficient enough where I bought my own ultrasound machine.
Oh, right. Okay. Yep. Okay. Very good. Okay. We really will leave it there until next time.
Okay. I think that's given us a pretty amazing insight into what Chuck what Chuck experienced. And I think, you know, we've certainly got plenty of physical therapists who things like Scanner and PhysioKey and things like that within our group who can verify exactly what Chuck was saying there. So I just want to acknowledge Kay for organising to make time with Chuck to get his experience recorded for us, and also to Chuck for his generous sharing. And I want to acknowledge you guys and thank you all for being here tonight to uncover more about the Redox products. I do just have to say that despite any mention by our guest of disease names, that ASEA products are not intended to diagnose, treat or cure any condition. They empower cellular communication and cellular function. So please get back to the person who invited you to watch this presentation, and they'll let you know how you can get started and have your own redox experience. So next week we will be hosting a similar talk at the same time, and please come along and invite people you care about who may be interested in hearing this information. I'll stop the share now and stop the recording, and thanks very much. Just going to look at these chats.